A lot of the talk with Tears of the Kingdom is that Nintendo has been too quiet on the game. Well, it looks like Nintendo is finally starting to break that silence, with the series producer Eiji Aonuma. This weekend, he finally told us something major about Tears of the Kingdom that gives us a huge hint as to how different Tears of the Kingdom can be over Breath of the Wild. But not only that, it looks like we might have a rumored date for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Direct. And we'll be talking about all of that today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we're talking about a pretty good amount of Tears of the Kingdom news. One part that I think gives us a pretty good understanding of some major differences, or perhaps the major gimmick for Tears of the Kingdom that Nintendo has been holding back on from showing us, and then also potentially the date for the actual game-specific Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Direct. But before we jump into that, let me put out this reminder that we have this goal to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. We recently hit 16k, we've gained some ground, but we have a long way to go and we're still behind pace. But if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, because that may just give us a chance of hitting this goal. Alright, so before we get into the date for the potential Direct, let's focus on what I think is perhaps more exciting news with what Aonuma told us about Tears of the Kingdom over the course of this weekend. So basically, it was the Famitsu Game Awards that took place on March 18th, and Tears of the Kingdom received Most Anticipated Game for 2023, and Aonuma had some comments. Now do keep in mind, this is a translation. This is a very wonderful award. The entire development team is delighted to receive such a wonderful award. In the previous title, Breath of the Wild, players experienced a new Zelda world where they are free to go anywhere and do anything they want. And in the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, we have packed even more new gameplay where players' freedom of imagination will change the game world. I am sure that all of you who voted for this game will be very happy with the results. I am sure that everyone who voted for this game will find it a fresh surprise, and I hope that you will enjoy the unknown Hyrule as much as you want to. Thank you. So at first glance, I think some people may look at this and think it doesn't tell us much. But upon closer inspection, I think many of you might agree with me that it tells us a lot more. So the big thing has to do with where he says, "We have packed in even more new gameplay where players' freedom of imagination will change the game world." So he talks about how in Breath of the Wild it was all about the freedom to choose in terms of exploring and how you go about the world of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. But in Tears of the Kingdom, it's about the freedom of your imagination to change the game world. It's not just about exploring anymore, it's about changing the world. And when you think about that, that makes a lot of sense. We are returning to Hyrule. So if we're returning to Hyrule, as a direct sequel, they're gonna have to make a lot of substantial changes in order for it to feel worth it for a lot of people. But if the world of Hyrule is something that is subject to change based off how we play the game, well, that offers up a myriad of new gameplay possibilities, potentially endless. So let's consider that with the most recent trailer, they actually kind of hinted at this to some extent. So we saw Link riding this weird type of car, this weird hovercraft, this weird air balloon, and we saw Link pulling out a tire from this mud pit from what I believe is the Great Plateau. And all this seemed to be hinting at building and customizing different crafts or vehicles to explore the world in different ways. And it seems like they kind of put together a new system of physics or mechanics that are centered around this ability. And I find this fascinating for a few different reasons. One, in Breath of the Wild, a lot of people took advantage of the physics systems in place to come up with new ways to explore the world. We saw people running giant cubes or pieces of tree to fly across Hyrule via stasis. We saw people using magnesis to push different carts upon each other up into the air so you could basically have a hover or flying craft. We've even seen people use magnesis on chests to push the raft as if it had its own engine. So it looks like Nintendo took note of some of the creative things people came up with while playing Breath of the Wild and took it to a whole other level. But this is just one element to this idea of changing the game world. Consider the Tarrytown quest, the most popular and beloved side quest in Breath of the Wild. It was all about building a town, meeting characters, putting it together. It was quite fun and engaging. And it allowed us to create a new town in this massive world. Well, when you consider the story for Tears of the Kingdom, how it takes place after Breath of the Wild, and at the end of Breath of the Wild, Zelda talks about restoring Hyrule, I don't think it's a stretch to think that we could be seeing Nintendo expand upon the Tarrytown quest and have more ways to build up different villages and areas throughout the world. This could be another way we could change around the environment in Tears of the Kingdom. And then also, when we consider the enemies and how they all seem to have these different types of horns on their heads, there might be some idea to using these headpieces as weapons. Perhaps there's a lot more crafting involved with this game than before. But what else could they be changing here? There's a lot of possibilities, and honestly this could be its own dedicated video, which may come down the road. But there's a little bit more from what Aonuma said here that I think is important. So at the end, he says, "I am sure that all of you who voted for this game will be very happy with the results. I am sure that everyone who voted for this game will find it a fresh surprise, and I hope that you will enjoy the unknown Hyrule as much as you want to. Thank you." So at the very end when he says as much as you want to, that's suggesting more that it does kind of come down to the player's imagination. Again, reiterating on that point that there's a lot that we can do in this world that perhaps we haven't really thought of yet. But also, he says, "I am sure," multiple times. And this is speaking on to the point that people will be pleased with the result in Tears of the Kingdom. Finally, we have words from the series producer himself, something that I've been wanting to hear for a while. He is here saying, "This will meet your expectations," which is incredibly high, the most anticipated game of 2023. Suggesting that if it truly meets the majority of those expectations, we're looking at a Game of the Year kind of game. And that's going to be amazing. That's going to be the best game of the year. And this is already looking like a pretty impressive year. So that has me very excited, and I can't wait until we learn more. And I especially can't wait until we play this game. That's going to be an amazing time. But before we go, there's an entire other story we need to talk about here. And that is the date for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Direct. We have a rumor. Now this rumor is coming from Mike Odyssey. He has a source. He hasn't had multiple sources confirm this yet, so take it with a grain of salt. I will link his video in the description below, but he's hearing April 12th is the date. And I agree this is a likely time. We've talked about this date already, it makes sense. Now recently I talked about the possibility of us getting it sooner, mainly because there was a belief at the time that maybe we'd see a Tears of the Kingdom demo at PAX, but we now know that's not happening. Nintendo still hasn't announced a supposed OLED. So, as we discussed last week, we're going back to our original thinking that we would get a Direct 4 to 5 weeks before its release, just like how they handled the Splatoon 3 Direct and the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct. And considering that the Mario movie is coming out April 5th, it makes sense for it to happen the week after, which puts us on April 12th, which is a Wednesday. And what's interesting about that, with the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, June 22nd, it was a Wednesday, and then the Splatoon 3 Direct, August 10th, also a Wednesday. This lines up, this makes sense, this is my expectation. 4 weeks out from the release of Tears of the Kingdom, we will get a Zelda Direct on a Wednesday. I've already predicted this, I already believe this. This rumor simply adds more credence to this idea. And I think it's going to be exciting. We're going to learn a lot about this game. Maybe they will save the supposed Tears of the Kingdom OLED announcement for the Direct since they haven't announced it yet. Normally, they would have announced it already when we look at how they handled the Pokemon OLED and the Splatoon OLED. But who knows, it could be announced this week, it could be announced next week. Nintendo can do whatever they want. There's also the possibility that the OLED simply may be cancelled. And I say cancelled because we saw a leak that's been confirmed by promotional materials. So either A, it's happening, B, it's a prototype that will have a different design, or C, it's cancelled and not coming to market. We shall see. Regardless though, I strongly believe that more Tears of the Kingdom information is coming. Nintendo will market this game, and if you want more information, then you're going to be in great shape. And if you don't want any more information, then you should also still be in pretty good shape, because you can just not watch the Direct and play the game when it comes out on May 12th. And hopefully by then, we'll be at 25,000 subscribers, but we shall see. Anyways, everyone, this is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.